Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
PremierBilliards.com. Exceptional cues, cases, and accessories from top-tier brands. Want it? Need it? Find it. PremierBilliards.com.
Welcome back, Pinozo. How are you, sir?
Good. Ready to roll.
Ready to roll. We're talking action today, son. I don't know if you're prepared.
Yeah,
you're prepared for that type of stuff.
That's not. I'm a real. I'm a tournament guy, but that's fine.
Through and through. We're going to talk some tournament stuff too. That was a pretty big tournament out there in Jason's room. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to the winner and the runner-up, which I got some news about getting a guest on. That was a part of that final. So, we'll jump into that here in a little bit. But on top of that, I got some news for some of you guys. Talked to Joey earlier today. He wishes everyone well. We're going to try to get him on the show here pretty soon. So, a lot of people have been asking for him. I know I've been missing him. So,
yeah.
Looking
going to be a guest on his own show.
Yeah, he wants me. He wants me to fill him in on the last few months. I said, just go back and hit the play button.
Right.
I don't even know how to go about that. So no, we're gonna have fun with it. So, but news of the day, news of yesterday, actually, SVB Fedor, Moscone Cup teammates, recent world champion versus former world champion. Both of them have 2 belts, and Shane's got 8 ball and 9 ball. Anyhow. What do you make of it, Mike?
One of them has 10 ball. That's what they're playing.
Well, neither one of them does have 10 ball. You're right about that. There's
the guy who's got 2 10 balls sitting on the sideline licking his chops.
Look, let me tell you something. That dude who's sitting on the sideline licking his chops, he's a bad man playing 10 ball, Mike. He really is. I don't know. I like that he's barking back. I'm not sure that like how much that game would be able to be made. It would obviously be on his backers, but I do know that in the past, at least from Fedor's standpoint, that he has been willing and open to play Kachi. But Kachi said, "Hey, listen, let me get my bridge hand back and you guys can flip the coin." I like the way I like how he made it a little spicy at the end of the post where he was just like, and you got the first break, because the Fedor and Shane shit talking, for starters, is the most awkward thing I've seen on Facebook in so long, because that's neither one of their forte, and it seems a little fabricated, Mike. Okay, it seems like a little like I'm trying a little too hard to throw a jab, but nevertheless, SVB versus Fedor, race to 120. Give me the first impression there, Mike.
Man, how do you handicap it? I mean, I'm not even 100% sure right now who's favored. I'd assume it's Shane, but can't be by a lot.
Easy, cowboy. No. So let's start off with the line then. Okay, a lot of people are looking for even action. Even action is completely understandable. I don't know that I've seen Fedor play long race 10 ball in some time. The only thing that comes to mind, and maybe you guys in the chat can help me out here, is when he played De Luna a long time ago, and this was years ago, and that was the last time Fedor jumps out. Let me refresh a little bit of memory. Fedor jumps out to 10-0 lead early on, and from there it was nip and tuck. Basically, from there they pretty much played even, because Fedor won by the same spread that he started off with on day number 1. But on the spread, again, I see a lot of even action. I know Robert Frost was opening up 3-2. I think he got called out. Not called out. He opened it up for about 5,000 worth of action, laying 3-2 on the money and taking the kid. So if there's any indication as to what the line ought to be, there's a good starting point. Is what I would say is around 3-2 on the money, and however you guys figure that out when it comes to games. I've seen Shane's going to win by 30 and Fedor's going to win 30. But all these people who were saying, all these, everyone who's got the crystal ball here, no one's willing to put up any money. So if you're not willing to put up any money, then the lines you're proclaiming online isn't really worth a you-know-what.
I thought about jumping in because the first person I saw get in there was Dom, and he was taking Fedor. I'm like, that poor kid's got no chance.
No, listen, you're gonna you make your bed. You know what I mean. You know how it's gonna go. So but it's look, let me give you guys some backstory here. So this match has been in talks for quite some time. That film that you guys saw yesterday was filmed back in December at Sticks and Stones when they're preparing for the Moscone Cup. So this is give you guys some context here to how long this has been in the works. They've been trying to figure out dates for the last few months, and Shane's not necessarily the easiest guy to make a game with, and neither one of them are for the sake of their schedule, but Shane's a pretty particular guy. You know, he likes things the way that he likes them. You know, Mike, you ought to know this. As you get older, you know, you can be a little stubborn sometimes. You know what I mean? So Shane likes things his way. He never really has to chase, right? Because Shane's had the crown for quite some time. He's had open invitation. Anybody who wants to play 10 ball for quite some time. And now here we are. The kid wants to get in some action. This is pretty perfect because I think when it comes to rotation, this is by far the premier matchup. This just reminds me of like how years ago we wanted to see Dennis versus Alex in one pocket. Well, this is the rotation matchup that fans have been wanting for some time.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's going to be juicy. I don't know what is the streaming. This is all going to be pay-per-view, I would imagine.
Pay-per-view X-Pool out of Rail Yard. They're Kyle's place out there. He's put on many challenge matches, and they have a good quality stream. They usually get in pretty good commentators on there as well. They've done a number of different things. Fedor a couple times, Tony a couple times.
They're going to have
Oscar
a
and
lot
Chris
of viewers
match.
for that. This is going to be pretty much a
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the one that everybody wants to see. You know, like you have these guys. Let me tell you something about pro players, Mike. When it comes to these action matches, everybody like players like getting in the action, but nowadays they want to get compensated for their time, which I get. And a lot of times with these matches, you'll have players who are going to get a fee for attending, and rightfully so because they're selling pay per view. It's like selling seats. You know what I mean? You see boxers get a piece of the pay per view and so on. So, right, but a lot of times you have the room owner that'll fork up said fees, meaning he's the one sticking his neck out saying, hey, listen, I'm willing to pay you guys, and then we'll see how it looks on the back end. But, you know, have some players kind of like think they're worth more than what they are. But in this case, you know, I think that this is the one – shocking, right? I know, my but in this case, this is the one that everybody's been wanting to see. When they were there filming this, like I said, back in December, we were there. Joey and I were there out at Sticks and Stones, and Cleary showed up, and I was like, what is Cleary doing here? And then that's whenever I found out about it, which he did a great job, by the way, because the video came out really good. He actually filmed some more stuff out there at the Derby, which you see a lot of those guys out there as well. So it's been like brewing for some time, but I'm excited. You know, it's going to be right before the U.S. Open, Mike. They're both going to be playing 10 ball. I don't know, Mike. I don't really know where to go here with it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be great to watch. I mean, you know, 120. That's a long race.
It is.
You know,
it is.
So,
but that's right up Shane's alley. You know, that's his
Shane's alley. Actually, I was actually wondering more about Fedor. You know, he's had his physical issues too.
Indeed.
It's going to take by the you know, what do they do with blocks of what?
40. So race the 40 each day, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So
a couple of,
you know,
like, I'm not a fan of the 120, Mike.
Oh yeah, third day, he's going to be beat up.
Yeah, no, it takes its toll. I mean, you're on your feet. You're probably going to be on your feet for a good, you know, let's say 8 to 12 hours, give or take, depending on how back and forth that it is. And there's definitely a physical demand out there. They got hardwood floors out there. You know what I mean? The place is nice though. I like going to Rail Yard. It's the food's good. The people are real nice. But yeah, it's tough for those guys to be out there. I mean, Oscar told me the same thing. He was like, man, by the end of that match with Chris, because the last day with Chris, Oscar had to play a second set that started like around 11 o'clock at night. I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, you're starting another race to 30 at 11 o'clock at night. And he was like, man, my feet were just tore up to shreds. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just ruined. And so, but look, this is before Shane was Mr. WNT and Mr. 9 ball. People forget he was the baddest dude on the planet when it comes to 10 ball. He's played everybody and anyone. He's been willing to dance with anyone, and He's gotten in the grease a few times with the likes of Dennis, with the likes of Alex, with the likes of Chang. He's played these guys with big 10-ball breaks in the past. And I know, he's no 10-ball world champion, but he wasn't afraid to play anyone who would be a 10-ball world champion. I can guarantee you that, Mike. And so he was always so he always leaned so heavy on that break with the template, and he's got a few of them up his sleeve, and how he can muscle it, Mike. And so I'm a little surprised to see it at this point of his career, to be honest with you. But I'm still pretty excited to see these two line up and dance, and it just works out perfectly that after Federer wins World Pool Masters, Federer wins the World 9-Ball Championship. Everyone knows he's hitting at a pretty high clip right now. That here we go, we're about to play, and I wonder if everything wasn't locked up, whether Shane would still be willing to do it, considering Federer's success over the last let's say 60 days or so, Mike.
I don't think that would have had any effect on Shane.
I don't know, Mike. There's a little bit of there's Shane's very aware of his reputation and his legacy, I feel like. And that's part of the reason why I think he wasn't so inclined to get in this match in the first place. Now again, I'm speculating here, but that's just my gut reaction, because I don't think he, wants to be the one to lose to Federer, because I think he's just a little prideful and rightfully so. He's been dominating for so long, and I don't know if he's willing to relinquish that throne just yet, Mike.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out, shortly. I still think the only guy that Shane fears is Josh.
But Josh wants no part of playing Shane. Oh no,
I'm just saying as a player on the planet.
Yeah, I've seen guys that have, I've seen comments online on people. Well, there's a few guys who'd be willing to get in there with those two. No, there really isn't. There really isn't. Josh has been in talks to play Shane, or there's been many conversations to get that match to happen for years, and they made no bones about it. Josh wanted no part of playing Shane any kind of 10-ball. Dennis wants no part of playing Shane any kind of 10-ball. Chang learned, like the rest of us did out in Austin, it's like if you play and listen, we know Chang wasn't like his pre-COVID self, right? But he was still a pretty bad dude playing 10-ball, and he learned just the gear and the level of heart and grind that Shane has within Mike, because that was a pretty epic showdown in its own right.
That's what it comes down to in these matches.
But that's where you mentioned, Federer's, physical limitations that he's had in the past. And I think that's a realistic concern, because it's going to be some long, long days, Mike. It really is. After that, just today, we also saw Kachi. We mentioned this to start the show. Kachi said, "Hey, listen,
y'all talking about stuff. I got two trophies right here. Just in case you guys are wondering who the world 10-ball champion is. But I don't know that I've ever heard Kachi play in a long race. Have you?
Maybe not to this length. No, I mean he's
190.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, he built when he first popped on the scene, he stayed in action pretty consistently with Filipinos and otherwise, whenever he'd come to the East Coast. And, he's not afraid to dance or get in it with anyone. But these long races are different. And Shane has always argued for a different one. Now, the format, I'm not necessarily in love with, Mike. The reason being is because if you get a guy who starts off really strong, and it's hard to stay engaged when there's like a 20-something game difference, you know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, what's going to happen. He's going to pop. He's going to try to go for the four-wheelers and try to go for the two balls in the side. He's going to try to dress up the one by the bottom left corner. Like it's over and over and over and over again, where personally, like if you had these races where they were best of sets, you know what I mean? Like maybe like a shorter race 21, best of 5 sets. I think that would be a little easier on the eye, just myself.
Yeah.
But Shane wants it. I'm guessing that was a negotiating point that he requested, just given his history. And so we're going to make it happen, man. I mean, it's good because we were spoiled years ago by all these action matches back to back to back, and kind of burnt us out. And now here we are, a good one's coming back, and what better one than SVB versus Fedor. I got a text just a minute ago, Mike, and they said, ask Mike what he's up to this weekend. So I'm gonna ask you what you're up to, and then I'll give you a guess as to who told me to answer that. So
You know what I'm up to this weekend?
I think I've heard about this. I'll see you here in a second.
I'm assuming you heard from our buddy Jason Weir.
Indeed.
I am going to Little Rock, Arkansas, to be a judge in the Miss Arkansas beauty pageant.
How did you get that gig, Mike? The Miss, the official.
Yeah, you're picking who's going to Mrs. You're picking who's going to Miss and Mrs. USA, Mrs. America. Right?
So if she parlays that into a win at Miss USA, you may eventually be picking the winner. Wow. Spoken like a true pool player, Mike.
No, this is going to be. Listen, Jason Weir, who's Shane's good buddy, his wife Michelle is a former beauty pageant winner, and
Michelle's
she's still
great,
involved in pageants in terms of, coaching and helping with parent pageants, things like that. And she asked if I wanted to be a judge.
I wondered if my phone was on silent when they were reaching out.
I just thought, how can you not do this? I mean, this is going to be, so what did you do last week?
I'm sure it took some twisting of your arm to make that happen, huh, Mike?
I told my wife, she just rolled her eyes. She was like, whatever. But yeah, it's going to be really cool, really interesting, it's going to be like Burt Parks in the old Miss America contest, wear the tuxedo, the whole bit. And, looking forward to the swimsuit competition. So
I'm guessing so, man. I'm guessing so. That's pretty exciting stuff.
Going to be a lot of selfies taken.
I'm not surprised, Mike. I'm not surprised. I'm sure you're going to be right there in the mix and enjoying cocktail hour at some point as well. So.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, think about it. He's just asking the questions, getting to try to figure out who's got the personality, who's got the smarts. Yeah. See how the eye test holds up.
The eye test. Now my man's buying in. Now my man is finally bought into the old eye test. I've been eye test for years. There you go.
Yeah,
Mike. Well,
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing Jason and Michelle on there. Is what I'm looking forward to. So.
Go follow Pinoza on Facebook for all the updates. I'm sure there'll be plenty of photos and updates throughout. But which is good stuff. And tell Jason I said hello. I'll be seeing him next. The end of next month in Seattle. You won't be able to make that one, will you, Mike?
I won't be able to make that one. Yeah.
It was one of my favorite trips of the year. I'm excited to go back to Everett. I'm going to try to go in, I think, like that Tuesday before and do some fishing and hang out at the lake house and then go and celebrate Jason's father and the Don Weir Memorial out there at the end of the week. So anyhow, back to the action.
Yeah.
So give me who you think's got this and why, Mike. Give me your when you first seen this was happening.
Well, I like Shane. You can't say he's going to win by 20, whatever. I don't see it coming down to the wire. I just think that this is his wheelhouse. It's 10 ball. It's a race to 120. He's been kind of like dancing around this one for a while. When he gets there, he's going to be ready. And Fedor better be ready to start out hot because, Shane is, this is, like I said, this is his bread and butter. So he's going to have to play really good to stick with him. Otherwise, Shane could get away from him.
There was a reason why nobody wanted to fuck with Shane playing 10 ball for so many years, Mike, and it's because of that break and how imposing that he can be. Shane had to play the best players because nobody wanted any part of him, and so when I posted this yesterday and I quoted that the old Ric Flair line, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I know Federer is hotter than ever right now, and there's comparisons to Shane and Efren and things like that because he's this generation version of it. But you got to go and beat that man first. And so Shane's not going to let go of it very easily because he does have, obviously his skill set is still very high. Even at this point of his career, he still has a very great break. And Shane just hates to lose. Like he's one of these few, and all these top guys, you see that the Joshes, the Fedors, the they just have like this disdain for losing, Mike, you know. But Shane is born and raised on a very great work ethic. Like he built his whole career on it, and he still has that gas in the tank. When if something's worth him getting up for, he'll put the fishing pole in the closet for a little bit and go put in the hours in order to make sure that he's dialed in. And so it's going to make for just an absolute epic match. I think the pre-sale for the pay-per-view was like right around $30. So make sure and go support it. Don't bitch about pay-per-view. I really got no patience for especially when you got the biggest guys in the planet going and playing. And listen, like I've mentioned this many times, guys like this, they can very well just go play in the corner and settle it between them two, and no one ever has to hear a word about it. You know, they go through all this song and dance, number one, to get compensated, but number two, for the fans, you know. And so you got to make sure you got to make sure and go show some love. And so I remember the very first time that I went to go see. I'll tell you a story about Emily in this story as well, Mike. It's a pretty good one. So Shane plays Dennis years ago, and I think Shane mentioned it in his post, and it was dubbed as like the greatest match of the century and blah blah blah. And it was going to be 10 ball, and it was Dennis. And this is when Dennis is Dennis. Like, you know, you think, okay, like so. This is when Roy's basement was like in its prime, and so it was going to be in Virginia. Roy set up the whole stream, and so I said, you know what, I'm booking my flight. And I think it was like maybe like within the previous few weeks was Moscone Cup stuff coming on. And this was the year that Bergman, if you remember, Mike, Bergman got in after the international, and he made that great run. And so I had heard through the windmill that, hey, Bergman got picked for the team, even though he wasn't in contention up at that point. And so I posted on my Facebook page about it. Fast forward to the 2 weeks, I go out to Virginia, and it was Shane versus Dennis. And I just, listen, I love rotation. I love when big guys match up. It was over by like the first 30 minutes. You know, it was just, Shane was just dominating. Dennis could not find his break. I kid you not, Mike. Dennis probably changed cues at least a handful of times throughout that match, Mike.
Yeah.
You know, from a Revo cue to a Southwest cue to what I think he might have been sponsored by Mucci at that point. Like, you name it, Dennis was just trying whatever. And Dennis, they would be playing for like 8 hours. It was the craziest thing. They'd be playing for like 8 hours. And Dennis, after they were done, this is when like everyone's just exhausted and burnt out. You know what Dennis would do? Dennis would stay there and rack the balls, break the balls, rack the balls, break the balls. And he was just a machine like that. And so, it was something to be seen, but Dennis just could never get the break, Mike. And that was one thing that Shane always had, like, you know, up his sleeve. And that's what he's always had that. And that's the reason why nobody wanted to mess with him. So I'll tell you a funny story about that trip. That was this trip that I was on. I went to go stay with a buddy of mine at his apartment there in the DMV. And I remember one morning I'm getting up and my phone rings, and it's Facebook Messenger. And it was Emily Frazier, Mike. And I'll never forget, because in my head, I was like, man, I posted that stuff about Bergman not too long ago. And I said, this call could either go really, really, really good, or this call could go really, really bad. And so, and I was this close to not answering the call. But I had to pick up the phone because I just, you know, wouldn't be able to sleep.
I gotta know.
And I'll give you a guess as to which direction that it took there, Panozo. And so
you get very few congratulatory calls from Emily.
No. I got my ass chewed out, and that was my first like invitation into Emily Frazier, was that trip. I'll never forget it because she was very intimidating. I'll never forget, was the first impression that I got of her. And so she was trying to find out like who and where did I find out my information from. And, you know, Mike, I wasn't going to give that up. Right, Mike? We don't spill the beans, you know? And so, but that was my first invitation.
Your introduction.
It was terrifying, Mike. Absolutely fucking terrifying.
Well, there's no way it shouldn't have been terrifying, because you were 100% right. Listen, it doesn't matter where I got my information. it's not your business. The information.
But you learn, listen. This I didn't have Uncle Panozzo, guiding me on like the right way to do things and the wrong.
Oh yeah, I'm the guy that you want for that.
Well, lately you've been on fire lately, Mike, because you've been posting some shit online that I just can't believe sometimes. But we've learned I've learned, from many mistakes and, just the right way to go about doing things and the wrong way to go about doing things, and make sure like, you give people a heads up and you don't ambush them and things like that. But I'll never forget, it was that trip, and Shane just demolished Dennis, like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And it was like, really, since then, they just couldn't find anyone. And back when Omega was doing their thing and they were doing pay-per-views on a regular, like they had Shane, on call, ready to dance with whoever, but they couldn't find a game for the dude. You know what I mean? Like nobody was willing to play. And back then, not even Fedor was willing to play, because it just did. And I get it, because for them, it didn't really make sense, right? Why at that point of your career would you go and play Shane? Because you're pretty much just guaranteeing, even if you win, you actually lose because you kill all of your action, right? Because there's nobody else.
Nobody left
after
that.
Yeah. Well, because you know how it goes, Mike. These guys like to play. They all have this idea on like who's
step up in class. Step up in class. Yeah.
And you want to maximize, you know what I mean, like the return on the money, right? You don't want to just go straight for the jugular, because it's not about a pissing contest. I mean, don't get me wrong, like they get some joy out of being the best, but like really they're there to make money, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Like plain and simple, they're there to make money. And so, but now at this point, there ain't nobody left for either one of them to play. And so we're gonna make it happen in August. I might go out there. I'm for sure gonna go to the U.S. Open. Are you gonna be out there, Mike? And
I will not be at the U.S. Open.
What are you doing, Mike? What's going on these days?
I can't.
You got another beauty contest to go judge or what, man? What's going on? Huh? What's going on, Mike?
No, I've got another commitment that week that's going to take me to Dallas. So, nothing I can do about that.
Well, I'll be out there at the U.S. Open, so I'm excited for that, and I might try to go out there beforehand. It's just the next 2 months are going to be pretty hectic. I'm leaving this weekend for the Lucasi tour, so I'm pumped up about that. And then at the beginning of the month, leaving out to Junior Nationals again. Me and Colin's going to go sweat the action out there.
I'll see you there.
You're going to be out there, really?
Just for one day.
Okay, well. There's not very many places to go eat dinner at, Mike, but I know one. I know one. Don't go to the barbecue place no matter what Cecil tells you. I'll tell you that. So,
okay.
Or the Applebee's for that matter. But
that's pretty guaranteed.
Pretty interesting seeing Kachi's response to everything. I'd love for more guys to get in the mix. Mike, personally, I reached out to Kachi earlier today. He'll be home tomorrow. If I don't fly out on Thursday, I'm going to try to get him on the show on Thursday. And it wasn't about this. It was more about how he's been playing lately. And then, of course, Moscone Cup and Reyes Cup and the success that he had out there at Jason's room. But then, of course, when I seen his response online, it was like even better. I want to get this guy on the show because I want to ask him. Now we got more stuff to get into, which is great. But if
I'd be interested to know like where he would be willing to go play. Would it have to be in Europe? Would it have to be his neck of the woods? Would he come to the U.S. and play?
I think he'd come to the U.S.
Is he playing? Yeah. Does he go on template with Shane? I mean, it's interesting. It'd be interesting to see what kind of game they can try to drum up.
Yeah, I see Michael Pryor's comment about Shane losing to Dennis in long distance. He only lost to him Hill playing 9-ball and then lost again playing 9-ball. And 9-ball and 10-ball, apples and oranges. I was there the first time they played in Oklahoma when Dennis had that epic comeback. But the comparisons to Shane
playing on a 9-footer or is that bar table?
9-footer. 9-footer. Right. Yeah. Right. And I see, Shane lost to Jason recently too. Again, they're playing 9-ball. It's apples and oranges to me. I don't make the same comparison. They're specialists in each thing. Shane was never really thrilled about them taking away his break on 9-ball, from what I gathered at the beginning. I know he's since adapted and has won a world championship with it, but either way, I think the game would have to be here in the States, because I'm sure that'd be a sticking point for both these guys if they'd even entertain it. But depending on what happens, they may not, like Kachi may have a change of heart after he sees them two go and play, because, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of them goes and runs away with it, which I'm with you, Mike. I don't think it's going to be close either way. I would guess the spread's going to be by like 15 plus games, give or take, maybe in that 12 to 15 range. I don't think it'll be very close at the end, just what I'm thinking. So,
Yeah.
But I don't really like, I like Shane, but it's only because of what I've seen like before. That's the only reason why
Yeah.
I'm liking Shane in any of it. But yeah, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. So make sure and look forward to that as well, to having Kachi on. Make sure and keep your notifications on. As soon as I get a date locked up, and just depending on my travel this week, then I'll let you guys know. And I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of stuff. I'll try to get either one of those guys on as well. So um, also, Mike, big tournament this past weekend. Kachi was in another final of another big event.
Yeah.
Fedor snaps off another one. Mike, give me your thoughts on how that event went over there at Jason's room.
Yeah, it was good. Great lineup. I mean, they got a lot of the big players from the World Championship to just step on over to Dubai. Fedor, not surprising that he went out quickly. To me, he was so gassed after the World Pool Championship. It was ridiculous. But I don't know. He may have felt obligation because he'd committed to playing in the event. He may have just thought, well, I got the ticket, I may as well go. I mean, a lot of people would have just gone on vacation at that point.
Of course.
It wasn't that surprising to see that. And it wasn't, to me, that surprising to see Josh rebound from the World Championship and say, well, that's enough of that. I'm not getting beat here. So it was a little surprising. I'm sorry?
It was a great final. By the way.
Yeah, it was a great final. I was a little bit surprised to see Kachi back in the final. I mean, he had gotten dragged through just as much as Fedor had, and he stepped up and played his solid game. So, he had an early lead. So it was a good tournament. I think there were a couple other players who, again, close to trying to snatch up some of those WNT points for Moscone or Reyes or anything else. Victor was up there again. There were a couple players up there, knocking at the door that just weren't able to get there.
Yeah, I think the letdown factor is fair for both of them. Had it been Kachi and for sure for Fedor. You know what I mean? Like listen. You wanna take some time off? God bless you. You know what I mean? You well deserved and well earned and go do it. But Fedor, being the professional that he is, I wasn't surprised seeing his name still out there. I know he's also doing some exhibition stuff out of Vietnam, so that's great. And he's just, that kid's just a workhorse. You know what I mean? Like he's the epitome of what players ought to be when it comes to professionalism and marketing himself and branding himself. And so I just love that he's out there doing his thing out in Vietnam right now. But on to Kachi, I mean, look, man, this is what we thought that dude was last year, Mike, before he got that injury, right? We saw him coming. We saw him bully everybody and anybody, right? We saw his dominate himself, including beating Filler, and I think it was that UK Open final, so we've seen him do some really great things, and to see him rebound after a serious injury the way that he had is just incredible, Mike.
Listen, we talked before about Moscone, the Europe Moscone Cup team probably having some new faces on it this year. This isn't the one we really wanted to see.
No. I mean, he's been on that team before, but right.
But before,
we've also heard talks, Mike. Kachi's not necessarily known as being a team player. Had there been a European captain, there was a good chance if Kachi didn't make it in on points, he was probably not going to get selected as a wild card. Those are things that we've heard in the past. But then that was also you couldn't go and look away from what that guy had been doing last year. And I think even coming back from that injury, he was still in talks at the end of the year, and rightfully so, just because of how strong that he was, Mike. You know what I mean? Leading up to that point. And I know he did, he had said some things online last year, kind of saying he was deserving. I'm in that camp, Mike. I thought he was. Personally, I thought he should have been on that team. But then it's the year just ended with so much drama and guys coming in at the last minute. I mentioned two rookies I thought are going to be on this year's team. Look, Kachi locking up a spot, just look out, because that dude is something else. He's cold-blooded. He's got experience on that Moscone Cup stage. He's got experience on a lot of big stages, Mike. You name the event, he's got experience there. And so to him anchoring a Moscone Cup team, him anchoring a Reyes Cup European team, look out, because that dude is ruthless. He can dominate anyone. I don't care what your nationality is. And so, and I think it's just pretty poetic, just given how how the last year and a half has gone for the guy, to see him kind of lock up at this point.
Clearly, he's not the same player that was on Moscone Cup in 18 and 19. Completely different in terms of his the threat that he is on Team Europe in the Moscone Cup.
What do you mean, Mike?
I just mean, he's just, he's someone you don't want to see on your Moscone Cup team if you're a Team USA fan. Whereas in 18 and 19, when he was young and he didn't really know the other players that well, and he was kind of a little, off to himself type of thing, it impacted the team. I don't see that happening now.
No, I agree with you. And I mean, look, you on top of that, like his skill set has just grown as well. He's become a much more tactical player. The slow pace that we talked about him over the years has kind of gone away. I don't really think about him in that regard. I think he manages his clock very well throughout, especially on the tail end of the event when you start playing TV table. I think he's very aware of where he's at. I don't think he really drags his feet anymore like what he did prior to. And I remember, I think it was a Predator event, Mike, where it might have been World 8 Ball, where he got where he had a podium finish, but it was like his tactical play, his kicking, his defense, his decision making, and then when it came time to have to press, the dude was just, but I don't remember. I just remember him being, he's like the Gronk of pull, right? I'm just gonna break the balls. I'm gonna muscle. I'm gonna run out. I'm gonna break the balls. I'm gonna run out. And now I feel like he's just such a more well-rounded player, and I think that's what just makes him a threat, like anywhere on any stage. And I think it is great because what happened last year was real unfortunate. And listen, we talked about it being possibly career-ending, Mike. Right. So to see him still have the success and still start to dominate again is pretty awesome for the dude.
Yeah, so, it is. It is. He's a great player.
Yeah. I'll make sure, like I said, and keep you guys posted. Josh, though, snaps off the event, Mike. Big win for Josh. We both expect to see him on, playing this December, huh, Mike?
Oh, 100%. There's not a chance in the world Jason Shaw leaves him off. I think he'll earn it anyways. But he's good. So you've got Josh, you've got Sean, you've got Kachi already in my mind. So
what are your other two then, Mike?
A lot of it's just going to depend on points. It's going to be interesting to see who steals one of those point spots. Realistic, there's two events left for him of any real note, and that's the European and Hanoi, or the U.S. Open, European, U.S. Open, and Hanoi for Moscone Cup, right?
Yeah.
European Open and U.S. Open for Reyes. So there could be some movement for sure. I mean, there's still guys still in the thick of it. Pius and Victor and guys like that. They're close enough to the Alcades and those guys to where they can get that spot yet.
No, I agree with you, but you're going to have to go and get there. These guys are good enough to be in the conversation, but those guys who you mentioned are finishers and are closers, Mike, and they know that when it's time, they can really buckle down and grind out a tournament, David.
Well, they got to look at it as there's only two spots left, and one of them is, likely to end up being a wild card spot. So because you think with three big open events left, Josh is going to, have a decent run in at least one of them, right?
Where's Josh right now on standings, Mike? Do you know?
I don't.
No, I kind of put you on the spot there asking that question. It makes a difference, and points is going to be everything because you're going to have. I still think you're going to have a couple of these guys who are going to make a good run in an event in order to steal a spot. I'm guessing we're going to have another pick. What, after European, or is it after U.S. Open, Mike, for Moscone?
After the European for after the European will be the second pick for Reyes and the first pick for Moscone. After the U.S. Open will be the last pick for Reyes and the second pick for Moscone, and then Hanoi will be the last pick for both.
Well, I hope that we get to see some.
Yeah.
I hope we get to see some fresh faces, and it's not for saying these elder statesmen aren't deserving or they don't have the game still to realistically compete, because obviously where they're at standing shows otherwise, right? And they show that they're still going to be a threat and will continue to be. But I think it's a bit of a transition right now, and I think we're going to start seeing that starting this year and going forward, where you're going to start seeing these rookies start to solidify their own place. Remember, I mean, Fedor wasn't a lock in Moscone Cup before, and then now all of a sudden he's a lock, and he would be no matter what team that he'd be playing on. But like you have these guys who, like a Darren comes to mind, like now a Jason, you know what I mean? Who are pillars of a team. And I think you're going to start seeing some guys start to get their toes wet a little bit. And I hope it's a guy like Victor, because I love rooting for him. We know the shit that he's gone through over the last few years. And even a Pius, man, when it comes to a game, Mike, I've said it before, find me a guy who's playing more consistent than him, because there's not a lot of guys who are in front of him.
And both of them had a shot at the World Championship. Both of them were playing good, and Wojciech took them both out along the way, and he's not even in contention.
You want to talk about that for a little bit, Mike?
Well, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, Wojciech, had not signed a WNT contract, and by the time the WPA decided to waffle on its sanctioning bans, the list was filled up, and so he's kind of on the outside looking in. He got an invitation to the World Pool Championship through the WPA,
right?
And so if he'd have won the World Pool Championship, he'd have gotten $250,000 and wouldn't have been eligible for Moscone or any of the Matchroom Invitational events or anything like that. So, and along the way, he beat Pius, he beat Shane, and he beat Victor. So he did his damage to guys looking for Moscone points. That's for sure.
You think it's fair?
Do I think what's fair? That he was able to play?
No. I mean, they made a deal with WPA whenever they took over that, right? And part of it was you get X amount of spots, and whoever they give those spots, that's their choice, right? And he was one of them. But I mean, like, as far as him being eligible to play in, let's say,
if he's not a WNT, you gotta be, Matchroom's got to be loyal to the WNT philosophy that they put in place. So to me, that's not even a question. So I mean, and Wojciech's a great guy, and I think he would love to be in the WNT, but he got back to them too late, and so this year he's on what they call their pop-up list, which is, as our buddy Ray knows, if a spot opens up in one of the open events, one of the 128 drops out, they have this list of next up players, and they contact them to see if they want to take that spot, and Wojciech is on that list. But he doesn't earn points. He doesn't, whatever. He's just going to have to wait and see what they come up with for qualifying criteria for 2025. So we don't know at this point. They've not announced at this point, are the bottom 10 players going to drop off? Whatever. They haven't even determined that yet. So how, the 128 was a 1-year deal they all signed up for this year. So the slate's to a certain extent clean starting next year. And, if we'll see then if Wojciech is still wants to get onto WNT or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that decision would still be interesting, because I don't think it'd be a lock that he would say, I'm going to go sign a WNT contract, even still, just given the strength of the Polish Federation and everything they do for him and whatever was in his mind leading up to that decision, Mike.
Yeah, I talked to him about that a fair amount in Saudi, and, it's tough. They were getting ready to have their first kid, and the Polish Federation was paying his way to approved events. In some events, not even paying the entire way, a percentage. So really, when it broke down, and I kind of talked through with them, it really didn't add up to be a ton of money at the end of the day. But over there, they don't make a ton of money. So, he didn't feel like it was worth the risk with a baby on the way for him to bankroll his own money into every event and knowing that he's got to win to come home with money, that type of thing. So, but now he got 50,000 for finishing,
third, fourth, right? Whatever it was.
Third, fourth, right? And so I think he had to give a little percentage of that back to the Polish Federation. But now he's got a little bit of a bankroll, which is
how rich is that? How good?
He was saying if I win this thing
Crooks.
and I get $250,000, I would have to give 10% to the Polish Federation. And he said that's more. He said that's more than they give me for my travel. So that's what told me that Polish Federation only puts up about 20 to 25, 30 grand a year, for them to play. So now he's got this $50,000 bankroll. He can kind of roll, that's his house money now that he can use in place of the Polish Federation next year, if he wants to, right? In theory, that's the way it would work out. So I would love to see him on there. He's a great player, super steady, and just one of the nicest guys that there is out there. We'll see what happens next year. He wants to get out from underneath the Polish Federation. He just felt last year when gun was put to his head at decision time that he had to play it cushy.
You can't fault the guy for that. You know what I mean?
No, not at all.
It's protecting his family and
I don't think Matchroom faulted him for that either. It's just what was done was done. The field, the 128 was filled up. You got to wait in line like everybody else, and we'll keep our eye on you because you're a guy that they would definitely want to have on that group.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that by sticking to how they've structured it, and it's an interesting word to choose, but like Matchroom, that is
structure.
Yeah, I know. As I'm saying it, I want to throw up. But anyway, no, I think you can't undermine like that process, right? Because you've built this whole ranking system based off of that credibility, and so you can't lose it by doing this.
You don't start creating loopholes.
Yeah. You don't want to start doing exceptions and things like that. Listen, he had a decision to make. He made it, and God bless him for it. And I love the fact that he was able to have an opportunity to play because he is a top player. He really is.
Yeah, he is.
He's a former world 10-ball champion. Along with that, the guy, we talked about ranking like Polish players before, and he kind of maybe doesn't necessarily get the respect he deserves, but he certainly has the finish to get that respect.
He's not a real flashy player. He's not. He's a little boring player. He's only 30, just turning 30.
Yeah.
So,
but a monster on the table and as steady as they come, Mike. I mean, absolutely, a steady killer. And so,
well, like I said, he went through, P.S. Shane and Victor back to back to get to the Final Four. So, that's a pretty nice work.
No, 100%. 100%. The massive congratulations to him. We'll see how it shakes out. I hope he gets more opportunity to play on this stage because he will always be a threat no matter what the tournament is.
Yeah.
And obviously he's showing that he's got form under this format. So I want to see more of him. I want guys like these are like this is just what's happening because of all the bullshit going on like outside, right? We saw Victor not, pretty much get robbed of an opportunity to play because of a decision he made to not play in Hanoi because of what was going on with the ACBS and WPA and all that last year. And so like at the end of the day, it's real simple for fans, right? We just want to see the best guys play, period, end of story, right? And we want them to at least have an opportunity to be able to play without anyone, looking over their shoulder or threatening them or, putting pressure on them one way or the other. And a guy like Wojciech deserves to be on a Moscone Cup. And I know you mentioned he's 30 years old. I guarantee you a big part of that and all of his professional career, at some point he's hoped to be on that European team. And so I hope he gets that opportunity in the near future. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on him. Mike, what else are you looking forward to in the immediate future, buddy, besides going and judging a Miss Arkansas beauty pageant, man? Yeah. Correlated.
Once you judge a beauty pageant, I mean, what else is there?
Is this your like swan song? Like, is this where you may have a whole new? You may have a whole new.
there's a good possibility after this weekend I'm going to start getting calls from pageants around the country.
I'd go out on a limb and say you might say yes, Mike, if they asked you again.
If you think I'm a podcast slut, wait till they get
there. Well, we're going to be watching, but what are you looking forward to when it comes to the pool world, Panozo?
Well, I'm looking forward to European and U.S. Open. There's 3 big open events coming up. So those are the events that I've been looking forward to the most. We've only had really the UK Open and the World Championship. So those 3 tournaments are going to be some cool scoreboard watching, and that's going to be fun stuff.
Every tournament, I mean, you're taking a look at price tiers and
every tournament is going to have a ripple effect on these other events. So it's they're all very meaningful beyond just the fact that winning one of those titles is a big deal on its own. So,
I mean, especially like if you're whether you're an Asian player looking for a Reyes Cup spot, or if you're an American looking for a Team USA spot, or even a European player, right? Like these little things, these smaller tournaments make a big difference. And there's plenty of them. And there's one, it seems like every freaking weekend now of just ranking events going on. They're only getting bigger. They're only getting better, more exposure for players, more prize money for players as well. There's just so much stuff going on. Like I mentioned before, July is going to be super busy for me. Junior Nationals, I think probably going to go out to Sacramento for the Chuck, which is a WNT event as well. Seattle for the Don Weir Memorial event. So, and then you got August, which is U.S. Open, and now SVB versus Fedor, as if the calendar wasn't full enough as it was.
Yeah, right.
Just a ton of stuff that I'm looking forward to over the next 4 months or so. So, but anyhow, Mike, are we going to bet dinner on this action match, buddy?
If you're giving me Shane straight up, yeah, sure.
Well, I said in the beginning, I think I said on that video I'd take Shane, so it's kind of hard to go away from it. But for the sake of our dinner bet, I'll take Fedor. You can twist my arm a little bit, and I'll take him.
Too bad they're playing so late. I could take you to Applebee's in Quincy.
Oh, shucks, man. I think I owe you dinner, by the way, don't I?
I don't know.
I think
every place I went to Saudi Arabia, and Carl Boys is telling me I owe him dinner. I'm like, I don't, whatever. Just
has Carl paid for a dinner in the last 10 years of his life when he goes out to a pool event?
He must have never lost a bet, because I've never seen him pull a nickel out of his pocket for anything.
No, he may not even own a debit card at this point. So, anyhow, like I mentioned before, talked to Joey. Going to try to get him on here pretty soon on the show. So looking forward to that. Going to try to get Kachi on as well.
That would be great.
Either later on this week. No, for sure, Mike. I'm looking forward to it. I was real glad that he responded. So, and he was willing and open to come on. We had him on last year, I think, Mike. And so I'm excited to have him on again. And I just love, this is the time of year where these storylines are coming into play. You know what I mean? Like everybody, you start the fog starts to clear a little bit, and you start seeing who's going to be there close to the end of the race. And so, and it sets up for what's going to be a great U.S. Open, because the U.S. Open, lest we forget, there was matches where either you're on the team or you're off the team, right? That was pretty much how it went down. And so I'm hoping we continue to get that. I'm guessing we will. And so it's just going to make watching these events that much more exciting. So anyhow, Mike, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, just that, we were talking about these rankings into points, and the European Open is actually going to be kind of anticlimactic from that point, right? Because they're going to announce the first lock for Team USA and Team Europe for Moscone Cup, and they're
already picked.
They're pretty much done, right?
No.
So, but yeah,
there's still better. You heard it here first.
So it's going to be it's still going to be a lot going on, though. It's going to be, guys really jockeying for points.
No, that's where you're going to really be watching. And a lot of guys are going to start feeling the pressure and the heat, especially where you're at right now in the year, right? And if you're these guys who are in that, let's say 3 to 8 range, it's time to put your big boy pants on.
It's all bunched up for Team USA, and it's all bunched up for Team Asia. Right now, Team Asia is all over the board. I think you're looking. Well, right now, I think the list shows 3 Filipinos,
which is good. That's what you want if you're Matchroom, Mike. You're playing in.
I don't know if that's what
Manila.
you want if you're Matchroom. It's what you want if you're Puyat and the Filipinos. But if you're Matchroom, don't you want a Filipino, someone from Hong Kong, someone from Singapore, someone from Vietnam? I'll
tell you what, I for sure want someone from Vietnam.
Yeah,
for sure, I want someone from Vietnam, because that market is just you cannot.
You've already got one. You've already got Singapore. You've already got Yep is already on, right?
Right. So you're gonna have a couple of Filipinos at least. I would guess a couple of Filipinos, and I guess you're probably gonna leave a co-brother out of the mix. That's just my guess, Mike. It's just what my hunch tells me.
That's the way it looks at this point. I mean, it's a little tight, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it for for right now. We'll see how it goes. Anyhow, keep your notifications on. Big shout out to all of our sponsors. A lot more stuff to talk about. We'll have a lot more shows coming up. We'll see you guys out in Boise here this weekend.